Good afternoon. This is John, Julie Oscar November, continuing saga of preparation for the Great Loop trip on the Tribe of G, my Acadia 32 boat. Well, let's see, where should I start? When we were sea trialing the boat down in Texas, I discovered that the screen on the autopilot was virtually unreadable. It's a Robertson, which is bought by Simrad, a Norwegian company, AP35, which is a very high-end autopilot. Interestingly enough, I didn't know that at the time, but it's designed for fishing boats, commercial fishing boats. But the screen was so pixelated and fouled up you couldn't read it. So I tried to contact Simrad several times, and they did not respond. So that's, of course, this autopilot is no longer made. But anyway. It's still well loved by the industry. Couldn't get any response from them. So I scoured all the trawler forums looking for help, asking for help. Finally, I ran across an outfit down at Cape Hatteras, Marine Electronics of the Outer Banks. I sent a hopeful email, not expecting much, but the next day the owner sent me a message saying he had a brand new AP35, that's the model number, control head. He said that if I wanted, I could send him my unit, and he had a guy to fix it. This was amazing to me because I was totally striking out. Great day. So I asked him what he would do if he were me, and he said he would buy the new control unit. It's an easy install, 2 plugs. Take some setting up that's all described in the manual, which I downloaded from the interweb, of course. Further, he said that my control head, if not water damaged or hit by lightning or anything like that, which is not, he'd give me $500 for it. So I ordered the new control head, and it arrived the other day. And it's a thing of beauty and delight. And the next time I get down to Apalachicola, I will install it. Now my quandary is, do I want to send him back my old one and get the $500, or do I want to send it back to him and get his guy to repair it and keep it as a spare? So I haven't figured that out yet, but I'm sure glad to know I'm going to be able to read the screen on my autopilot. Since a lot of this trip is going to be single-handed, I'm going to need Iron Mike, as we call autopilots, to do the steering. It's exhausting sitting at a boat helm, steering a boat all day long, with no help, no relief. So what you do is, like when I leave from Carabel, for example, Carabel, Florida, to go to Tarpon Springs, it's about 170 miles, and it's a straight shot, and I'll just be able to set a course and tell Iron Mike to steer it, and then I can sit there and watch the world go by and watch out for other things that I don't want to hit. So that's great. I'm really excited to have that problem resolved. While I was down in Florida over New Year's, my son-in-law and daughter came down, spent a few days, and while we were there, we went over to look at the boat. They hadn't seen it, and Corey, my son-in-law, changed the windshield wipers for me. They were shot, and pulled out the navigation light bulbs so I could see if I could find some LED replacement bulbs, which I since have found, and I've got them here on my desk, and I've got they're little tiny things. They're interesting, and obviously they have green lenses on the boat, but I bought a green bulb for the starboard side and a red bulb for the port side, and the reason for that is, if you remember your high school physics, all a filter does is it filters out, if you have a white lamp, it filters out all the light except the red, for example. And in this case, I'm going to have a red lamp, so going through a red filter, so the red filter will not filter out any of the light. I also found some bulbs for the inside, the salon, the cabin. Right now they're little halogen bulbs that get hot as hell and take a lot of energy, so I found a similar LED solution for them, which I'll show you. And of course I found these on Amazon, and here they are, and they'll fit right in my light fixtures, and I've got 6 of them, but I got a feeling I've got 8 light fixtures. I didn't count, so I've got to get that figured out. But anyway, I've got enough to get me started. Going to try and switch everything over to LED that I can, because these things are much cooler and they use a lot less power, and I plan on spending a fair amount of time anchored out, so and I'd like to be able to use my lights, even though I have 2 large batteries, and one of them is reserved strictly for starting the engine. So that one, once we stop at night, that one is isolated all by himself. So I always have a good hot battery to fire up in the morning. And then if I need to, well, I don't need to. I will switch the other one on too, so it'll be charging off the alternator of the engine. I've been having these fuel issues with the boat. When I get the RPM up above 2,500, it's supposed to turn about 31 or 3,200 or 32 or 3,300 RPM. But when I get it pushed up to around 29, it starts to bog down and stall out. And I think I figured out the problem. And the problem is the previous owner was an engineer. And, engineers are, they're a different breed of cat. So there's a 2-micron secondary filter, so it's called, on the engine, a Yanmar filter. And there's a primary filter on the back of the cabin. That's a big Raycor water separating filter. And he thought that in the interest of preserving the secondary filter, he'd put a 2-micron Raycor filter on there. Well, that restricts the fuel flow so much that it can't get enough fuel into the engine to run it up to higher RPMs. Plus, it's murder on the fuel pump. So I'm going to change that. I bought some 10-micron filters, but since it's been recommended that I go to either a 30 or 20. So I may do that because you want because an awful lot of fuel flows through there, because diesel engines, as you probably know, use fuel to cool them. So only about 20% of the fuel that goes through the filter is burned. The rest of it goes back in the tank. So you're constantly filtering the fuel. Anyway, so I'm going to get that problem resolved, I hope, soon. And also, I've contacted a guy in Panama City. Actually, he was in Tampa, Coastal something or other. His name is Jeff. But what he does, his business is he polishes fuel and cleans fuel tanks. And as a matter of fact, he's been all winter down in Tampa working on ships, but he's coming back to Panama City. Matter of fact, he's on the way back today. I just talked to him on the phone. So he's going to go by the marina in Apalachicola, and he's got the equipment. They'll pump the fuel out of each tank. There's 2 100-gallon tanks. And he'll filter it and clean it, and if there's any gunk in there, then he's going to blast stuff back in there, and there's probably algae and water in the bottom of those tanks. I think the fuel in there has been in there for a long time, a couple of years maybe. And diesel fuel, as you may or may not know, is hygroscopic. There's always water in diesel fuel. That's a basic law of nature. It's like gravity. If you've got diesel fuel, you're going to have water. If you've got water, you're going to have algae, and algae grows down in there and clogs stuff up. And I think that may be part of my problem too with the fuel starvation, is I've got gunk in there. So he's going to filter that fuel, or polish it, as they say, and clean the tanks by blasting stuff in there and sucking it back out. So he said if the fuel looks bad, they'll dispose of it. It costs $1 a gallon to get rid of it, but there's only each tank is about half full, so there's about 50 gallons, I'm guessing, in each tank. Of course, fuel gauges aren't that accurate, so who knows. But anyway, hopefully the fuel will be good enough he can put it back in, but if it isn't, we'll dispose of it, and I'll start out with fresh fuel and clean tanks. And that's really important because I've got to know that engine's not going to stall out with fuel issues while I'm going somewhere. So anyway, we're going to get that fixed. He's going to come down there the end of next week, which would be around the 8th or 9th of February, and if he can't make it then, he'll come down early the following week around the 12th of February. So hopefully, I talked to the marina, they're cool with him coming in there. So we're good. Get the fuel issues resolved. I still got to get the depth finder on the Garmin GPS map plotter working. Excuse me. I think that's a pretty simple issue. I think it's just a wire that's loose down on the transponder down in the hull. So that should be an easy fix. I got to get the raw water wash down fixed so that I can spray off the anchor, because it brings up lots of mud and crap like that. Plus, when the water's nice and clean, I'm going to take my showers in the cockpit with raw water. And on the other side is a nice little hose that comes out has fresh water. So I can take my showers in salt water and then rinse my body off with fresh water, and I'll be all squeaky clean. And I won't have to use my fresh water much on my boat. So I'm in good shape. I got to get some Raycor 30-micron filters, which actually was what Yanmar recommends, rather than the 2-micron. So anyway, that's the progress. Getting pretty excited. I injured my knee a while ago. I'm going to get an MRI on it tomorrow night, Thursday night. Hopefully they think I've got a torn meniscus. And if that's the case, I'm going to get them laparoscopically to fix it because I've got to be able to bend my knee on this trip. So they said I went to Emory yesterday, and they said they can do that, and I should be in good shape to get out of here by end of April on my boat in fairly healthy condition for an old guy. So anyway, that's where I'm at right now. Oh, and one other thing, Corey, my son-in-law, discovered that one of the brackets on the swim platform was broken. Excuse me. And that's not a good thing. So we wrestled that thing off, and he took it with him. And he and another guy down in Valdosta are building another one out of stainless steel. So that'll get fixed, and I'll get Corey to come down there and help me put it on. So anyway, that's the current update on the Tribe of G planning session. Thanks for watching. Have a great day. See ya.